Planimetrics, Planimetrics, Planimetrics. Today in this live stream, we're going to be talking about all things planimetrics. What are they? What are they used for? And how are they captured in 2025? Talking about drone lidar here today. And we have special guest Davy Johnson for DC Johnson Associates, based out of Florida, who's going to give us his firsthand experience on how he's doing planimetrics with drone lidar right now in the field today. But before we get started, I want to tell you about something. If you haven't watched the latest Mark Rober video, it has over 16.6 million views right now. And we helped Mark Rober sneak in the ROCK R3 Pro into Disneyland and make a 3D model of Disneyland Space Mountain. We actually had no idea if our SLAM algorithms would hold up to the dynamics of riding a roller coaster, but it totally did. And we have this 3D model to show for it. We actually made a 3D model of the 3D model in order to 3D print a 3D model of Space Mountain and reveal what it looks like inside. It's a super awesome video. If you get a chance after this, please go ahead and subscribe to Mark Rober. He's super awesome, and it was a great time making that video with him. We have some more content coming out about this Disneyland experience and how we did it, so stay tuned for that as well. Now, one more thing that I think you're going to really be interested in, we actually have a new product coming out. I'm not going to tell you too much about it, but it's a new ultra lightweight, ultra long range, ultra high accuracy lidar system for an ultra unbeatable price. It's going to make this planimetrics that we're doing today absolutely a breeze in the field, as well as doing very large areas and doing topographic survey in very undulating environments. It's going to be a real game changer. Make sure you stay tuned for that. It's coming out real soon. More to come later. But for now, let's go ahead and jump in to our video today about planimetrics. Take it away, guys.
All right, thank you, Harrison, for that intro. Following Harrison and Mark Rober, that's pretty easy, right? So please note during this live stream, if you have any questions, ask via chat, and members of the ROCK team will do their best to answer your questions as quickly as possible. If necessary, we'll discuss certain questions and answers in the live stream. Additionally, before we kick things off, I would like to take a moment to thank you for attending. Your attendance and participation is greatly appreciated, as it is a major factor in how ROCK is able to improve our offerings over time. Also, I know that with March Madness going on right now, it's even more impressive that you're taking time out of your day to attend. And rest easy. If there's an upset alert, we'll wrap things up quickly. We also might bring in some halftime scores in the bottom. So keep an eye out. Don't worry. You'll get your basketball fix in. And with that said, let's get into it. Today, we're going to discuss why planimetrics matter and how planimetric line work serves as a fundamental asset in accurate mapping and surveying. Now, planimetric line work is critical for precise spatial representation, but it's also something that can be confusing or overlooked until you actually need it. So we all live in a world where there are public features and assets throughout that world. We're talking about roads, curbs, utility lines, sewers, and everything else in between. And for all of your projects, you and your team need to know where these public features are so that you can plan around them for your projects and design work. And that is where ROCK LiDAR surveys and pro services come into play. You can accurately map and digitize the location of these public features, import them into a CAD software, then accurately design around existing infrastructure. Planimetric line work is a crucial component of mapping and surveying, yet its intricacies and importance can sometimes go unnoticed until a project demands it. And incorporating planimetric line work into your surveying project ensures a high level of accuracy in data capture and helps prevent oversights in project planning and execution. Now that we've set the stage, let's dive into the specifics of planimetric line work, what it is, why it matters, and how it directly impacts project outcomes. The accuracy of planimetric line work depends heavily on the methods used to collect it. Traditional survey methods, while precise, are often time-consuming and may not fully capture all surface features. These methods typically require a multi-person team working over an extended period, depending upon the size, scope, and complexity of your project. Anyone who's been on a traditional survey crew knows the challenges. Double checking parking stripe corners because there's an uncertainty if it was the southern corner of the parking stripe that was surveyed, or were a couple northern corners of the parking stripe surveyed. Or how do we ensure the correct nomenclature was recorded? Were all of our features in the central area, or was that the middle area? Or is the central and the middle area just the same area and we're getting confused on what it's called? Or finally, what about verifying whether a point capture was averaged over 30 seconds, or if you had a crew member who was trying to get home early or get collection in before weather rolled in and they cut down the capture time to 10 seconds? It doesn't take much for well-intended survey to turn into a jumbled game of telephone where minor miscommunication can impact accuracy and cause a host of problems and delays for your project. On the other hand, modern methods such as aerial lidar, imagery, and photogrammetry offer a wealth of information but require precise protocols to distill actionable data. Aerial lidar and photogrammetry capture exponentially more data in a more efficient manner than traditional methods, but proper planning, collection, processing, control measures, and inspection are essential to ensure accuracy to real-world coordinates. Without the right controls in place, even the most advanced data collection can lead to gaps or inaccuracies. But understanding the difference in collection methods and how planimetric line work enhances mapping and surveying, we can ensure that projects are accurate, efficient, and free from preventable errors. So before we get into deriving accurate planimetric line work, I can imagine there might be some skeptical folks in the audience who question the accuracy of LiDAR in relation to traditional survey methods, although I hope that these live streams are helping to reduce the headcount of those skeptics. So traditional survey methods, while foundational, come with their own set of challenges. They require manual measurements taken point by point, which require a multi-person crew, can be slow, especially over large areas. Collecting detailed information over large areas about smaller, intricate features can be challenging, potentially leading to gaps or inaccuracies in data. And variation in techniques and interpretations, often among different survey teams or individuals, can result in inconsistent data, affecting the reliability of survey results. Enter LiDAR technology, which transforms the surveying landscape and can address all those concerns previously listed. LiDAR captures millions of data points per second, producing highly accurate 3D models with centimeter-level detail when capturing and processed correctly. This accuracy is crucial for applications like infrastructure planning and environmental monitoring. LiDAR can cover vast areas much faster than traditional methods, making it ideal for large-scale projects where time is critical. Additionally, single drone service providers can be in and out capturing hundreds of acres in a day, in an area what would have typically taken traditional survey crews multiple days. Also, the wealth of knowledge gained from completing a LiDAR survey on an area where you want to submit a project bid is massive. Without having to set foot on the project area, you can gain a comprehensive understanding of that area, understand topography and potential problem areas. The information can be used to help you create a project bid that is well-informed, robust, and competitive. For example, imagine a transportation department tasked with surveying an extensive highway network. Using traditional methods, this would involve multiple survey crews working over several weeks, manually collecting data point by point, a process prone to human error and inconsistencies. And that doesn't even get into the safety concerns of having a survey crew working on an active road or highway. By contrast, deploying a LiDAR system like the ROCK R3 Pro V2 allows for rapid data collection across an entire network in a fraction of the time. The high-resolution data capture ensures that even small features such as road markings and signage are accurately recorded. This not only enhances the quality of survey, but also significantly reduces labor costs and project timelines. In essence, LiDAR technology addresses many of the pain points associated with traditional surveying by offering a faster, more accurate, and comprehensive solution. Now that you've put up with me talking for a solid 10 minutes, we're going to change things up a bit. And to further this discussion on the crucial aspect of accuracy in surveying and the contrast of traditional surveying to LiDAR-based capture, we're going to welcome in Davy Johnson of DC Johnson out of San Antonio, Florida, to the show. I have some specific topics I would like to discuss with Davy, but if you have a specific question, feel free to ask us. So, Davy, thank you very much for joining us. And what I'd like to kick things off is by asking you, what are the big pain points of traditional surveys that you've experienced, and how does working with LiDAR help to solve them?
Hey, Andrew. So, yeah, some of the things that I would say are big pain points. A lot of things we didn't actually really realize were pain points until we started incorporating LiDAR data into our workflow. But we just kind of took it as this is the nature of the business, and it's always going to be this way. So LiDAR has really changed a bit of the way that we do a lot of our work. But previously, before we had this tech, a lot of the pain points that I'd say that the LiDAR systems help solve is, well, there's a few of them. One of them is kind of a little bit of an obvious thing, and that is that whenever we do any topographic survey or an ALTA survey or a boundary survey, most of the stuff that we do usually is a piece of property that adjoins a road. It's up against a road. There's and a lot of times it's not only a road but an intersection, a turn lane, a piece of right of way that is oftentimes on a big highway. So whenever you got a survey that's on a highway, you either are going to close down traffic, which can be a time-consuming process, or you're going to send your survey crew out to dance in traffic, which is dangerous. So we try to avoid doing that. The drone, so obviously the drone LiDAR system gives us a great ability to access, not only the road, but a lot of the offsite stuff. Most of our clients, not only do they appreciate knowing, having all the survey data for the specific site that they've hired us to survey, but also offsite, which oftentimes includes a lot of the road stuff. So, the drone LiDAR has really increased our ability to capture all the data that's out in that road very quickly and easily and thoroughly, which oftentimes in the past we would barely even do stripes, because you could survey from edge of pavement to edge of pavement. If a road is crowned, we'd have to get out in the middle of the road and get the crown of the road measured vertically. But a lot of times it was so time consuming and dangerous, we wouldn't even bother with stripes, and our clients were just okay with that. But now that we've been providing that for them, both us and them are addicted to it. They can't go back. We have to provide all the stripe data on all the right of way stuff that we do now. So the LiDAR has been a key part of providing that. Another pain point that I'd say that we have is manually collecting data is time consuming. It always, even with when I say manually, I mean conventional survey tools. The total station, the regular base rover GPS, and we're collecting point data one point at a time, point to point to point. And both horizontally and vertically, there's a lot of points to be collected. And as you were discussing earlier, each point needs to be, first the surveyor needs to identify what needs to be collected. They need to go to that point. They need to make sure that they have the tools and accessibility of the point to get it, and then type it in correctly. Make sure the rod height is typed in correctly. Make sure the code's typed in correctly. Make sure your rod is plumb, and capture that point. So there's a lot. It takes a lot to do that, especially if you've got a detailed site. A lot of commercial sites have a lot of features, especially recently, these past few years, we've been surveying a lot of schools, and schools have an incredible amount of detail, especially in their sidewalk areas, their parking lots, the there's multi-level concrete features that are all around the school, and trying to send a crew out in the field and measure each one of those points, not only accurately, but also in a sufficient way to fully give the information to the draftsman so that the draftsman can fully comprehend what's actually going on in the field. What we found is that using that survey data without the lidar, there's often a lot of assumptions that the draftsman has to make, and because there's missing data, or there's a piece of data that the survey crew didn't think was important, but actually when you're trying to draft it, it actually is important. But if you don't have it, you don't have it. You have to send the crew back out, figure out what's actually going on, try to interpret from pictures or whatever. And that can be a painstaking process. And having the LiDAR data on your computer in front of you solves all of that instantly. And that's been a huge plus for the site that you have pulled up there. Is if you zoom in on that, big picture view, it looks like a simple shopping center. But when you zoom in on say where the trucks back in and deliver the materials in the back, or the sidewalks and the ADA ramps and all that detail, when you have to send a crew out to measure each one of those points with conventional survey tools, it is a huge process, and it's more than likely going to involve many return trips to try to capture all that data in such a way where we can map it thoroughly and accurately.
Yeah, so thanks for that. It sounds like, as you mentioned too, it's just the element of removing the uncertainty or the individual decision of what area is critical or what features are critical, because you're just getting all of those features. And then we're going to be able to pull it down. If you don't mind me asking, I know we have other questions, and that was a great explanation. I just wonder, I know in a lot of cases, whenever anyone, for that matter, myself included, is transitioning or going from a previously applied method where there was this mindset of, it's just how it is, we got to work within those confines, and then you try a whole new approach in a way, and you just have that aha moment. Can you think back to what that sort of aha moment was like for you or your colleagues on a specific project, when you finally just said, this makes total sense, I wish I had known about this, however many years before?
Sure. I mean, there were, we've been surveying in our area for a long time. And so there's a lot of jobs where, we do a survey, and then a few years later, somebody else comes along and buys that property, and then we get called out again to resurvey that property. So yeah, I think early on when we first acquired the drone lidar, we said, hey, last time we were out here, we surveyed this conventionally. Now that we've got the job again, we need to see what's changed on the property. Let's go fly it this time. So we'll do that, and then not only do we realize we're able to identify the things that are changed from last time to this time, but we also identified things that we missed last time because we didn't know they were there, or we just drew it wrong because interpreting what the crew shot and trying to draft that based on point data. Although it was a good survey, there's just like some detail that's just missing or not there. And so the LiDAR really kind of opened our eyes to the fact that, oh, wow, this level of detail is just, I don't see how it's just, at this point, it's necessary. We have to have it. Once you know that this level of data is accessible, you want that on every project. Even if our final, our clients are usually landowners or property owners or developers or engineers. Even if they don't necessarily need all that data, we as surveyors wanting to produce the best and most accurate and most thorough product, we want the data. We want all of it. We want to know everything about that property so that we make sure that our data is is completely accurate and 100% thorough. So
yeah, and I could, sorry, I could imagine also too that with your, your potential customers, if they're not aware of this technology, it's kind of that they may just not know that this information would be readily available to them. So that's great. So we can maybe discuss this data set because we're showing it right now. And can you get into the specific deliverables that your customer was looking for as it relates to this data set, and then what unique features we pulled out?
Yeah, I believe you're looking at a public site, and it's a Publix, but they own a much bigger site, and there's a lot of different storefronts there. It's a much larger property than just one store. They wanted both an Alta survey, but in this one they also wanted topographic data because I believe they're going to be doing some changes to the property, either adding to the building or to the parking lot. We're not quite sure exactly all the changes they plan on making, but because they added the topographic data to that one, we know that they're probably going to be making some changes to it. So on top of all of the, because it's an Alta survey, all of those stripes that you're looking at are all very important. They need to know exactly how many parking spaces there are, how many handicap spaces, how many motorcycle spaces. Do the sidewalks meet ADA? And so all this data that you're looking at there is, a good portion of the data that we provided in our final deliverable came from that lidar data that you're looking at. Specifically, all of the stripes come from the lidar data, and that's that saves an immense amount of time in the field. Whereas if we were in the field measuring that, we would be collecting many thousands of points just to get that stripe data alone, on top of all the other. So sorry, I kind of got off track there, but our final deliverable that we give to our client is going to be essentially a map, and the map is going to it's a 2D map that has all of that detail that I just described, all the curves, all the signs, I think this one even had trees. Certainly the buildings and every visible feature on the property needs to be mapped for that survey. And then not only that, the topographic data had to be provided as well. So we had to add a vertical component and make sure that all the elevations are mapped and shown accurately and properly on our survey. So extreme level of detail that goes into our final product. The vertical data that we provide is a tin surface model. So we use AutoCAD to do all of our drafting. So we'll take the deliverables that you give us and we'll import those directly into AutoCAD. And we go through our own QC process and make sure that everything that you guys provide is matching the data that we have as well. We collect lots of data as well, through drone photography, but also our crew is out there collecting a lot of manual checkpoints and additional data that they're getting as well that we check it against. So we have a little QC process that we run it through, and then make sure that everything is good and matching and jiving, and then we produce our final deliverable in AutoCAD, which is a boundary and topographic survey.
Great, thanks for that. Now, I want to now get maybe we'll return to, we'll call it the, BL, before LiDAR times. And two main questions I want to ask. So let's say in this instance, if this customer came to you and said, hey, we need a survey of our marketplace, and this is the coverage, however many acres it is, and you're using traditional methods, what would have been your estimate as far as the time it's going to take to collect all the data, and then going out there for this 35-acre site, you need to set up all the equipment, you need to get your total station RTK, and then again, I don't even want to know how many people on a survey crew would, by lunchtime be thinking, I got to quit this job because, we're 5% of the way through the parking stripes we have to survey, and it's, the heat of Florida. And then on top of that, you also mentioned, in the past, we just couldn't survey all the road and get all those stripes because of the safety aspect. And we see right here, the roads on the bounding side are outlined and visually shown in great detail.
Yeah, so I don't know. You asking me to quote a time frame on the job really quickly, but just off the cuff, manually before drone data, that job we would probably budget at least a week out there of a 2-man crew, and possibly more to capture all that data.
Okay, and that's not even, and that was, again, as you said, in the sort of before times where you're not even in the surrounding roadways, you're not going and getting all of the details that are there as far as the, you might try and get the crown and the edge, but otherwise that's going to be the extent of your knowledge of the roadways, right?
Well, that's right. I mean, our job is to collect all the relevant data. So we would have to, if there is a crown in the road, we would have to find a way to go get it. So yeah, our job is to make sure that the product that we provide is a thorough and complete survey.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for that. So, I mean, I think it's, and for those of you who may be new to just LiDAR drone-based surveying, Davey, you might, I don't know if you remember the specifics off the top of your head, but I would imagine a 34-acre site, depending upon, any sort of safety concerns, that's a single drone mission with the standard DJI M300, M350 drone. You're not having to worry about hot swaps. It's 20 to 25 minutes worth of data collection to then get all the information we need to pull out this planimetrics, correct?
Well, it's a little more complicated than that, but as far as drone time in the air, yes. But as far as establishing control, there's still a fair amount of control and check shots that we're still going to be doing. And then also, because it's a boundary survey, you're not showing any boundary information on your LiDAR planimetrics. So as a surveyor, we're also charged with establishing boundary lines. So we still spend a fair amount of time on that site doing the conventional survey work that we would have to be doing anyway. And then on top of that, we're establishing ground control points, getting check shots, making sure the building, we're manually still measuring all the storm inverts and the popping manholes and getting inside the manholes and doing all that detail. So there's still a fair amount of survey work that needs to be done, but by orders of magnitude less when we can incorporate the LiDAR drone, which, like you said, 20-minute flight, and all of that stripe data is captured. Virtually all of the curve data is captured. The sidewalks, 95% of the sidewalks are captured. And, if there's anything that the crew can't see, the chances are the drone already saw it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. And then, how have you, what kind of advice would you give to other users who do want to deliver the highest level of accuracy to their end clients, both in a drone-based LiDAR survey as well as the final planimetrics?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Yeah. So what advice would you have for people who want to deliver the highest level of accuracy, both for their drone LiDAR surveys as well as the final planimetrics being derived from that?
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I would certainly recommend incorporating drone LiDAR into your workflow, especially for topographic surveys. But not only that, I think a lot of people are initially overwhelmed, especially surveyors like me, when you're initially given as much data as the drone provides. It's overwhelming. You're like, okay, what do you do with all this? now I have this amazing point cloud that's got gajillions of points. What do I do with them? So that's actually where ROCK Robotics, you guys have been extremely helpful in helping, not only providing your planimetrics to us, but also helping our company understand exactly how you take lidar data and get to a final deliverable product. That is something that our clients are used to. We use the data to still produce the same product that we've always produced. And albeit the product that we're giving them now is much better and more thorough, but it's essentially still the same product. It's a topographic survey with planimetric data and with the topographic data all integrated into the same survey.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. And I guess, maybe as we start to wrap up you joining us and move on to other data sets and other planimetrics, do you have any thoughts or insights as far as how you see planimetric work evolving moving forward into the future?
Oh, well, I mean, I know that there's systems out there that kind of do some automatic recognition of key points, like automatic break lines of curbs and other break lines that are key points, especially like building lines and I'm really looking forward to the possibility of lidar data. Some systems that can possibly identify trees, and not only just identify that there's a tree there. I'm really hoping that maybe the systems will be able to identify the diameter of the tree at chest height, and then also the tree type. That would be a huge leap that would save us an amazing amount of time. That I'm hoping that might be in the future. And I don't know, just taking these workflows that we already use, that you guys have helped us with immensely already, and just making them faster, more streamlined. It's hard for me to imagine how this automatic computer software can do what it does, but once you see it, then it's like, wow, it really does what it says it can do. It's kind of amazing. But so it's hard for me to predict the future, but there's definitely I can see some potential there in taking this data and integrating it into our workflows to just make it better and faster.
Okay, well, yeah, I think we just saw someone say lidar GPT, so maybe that's the maybe that's the realm we're headed towards. Seems like everything is GPT. Well, Davy, with that, unless there's anything else that you would like to add, we're going to move on to some other data sets. But I do really appreciate you taking the time to join us, allow us to examine your data set with your insights, and then also provide your thoughts on how the technology has really brought about efficiencies for yourself, your colleagues, and all that. So, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you guys.
So with that, we do have some other data sets that we want to show, just so that you can understand and get a little bit more examples of how we can extract planimetric features from your lidar data sets or your drone surveying data sets. And I think that's something that Davy was also mentioning at the end is, you can, when you first adopt this lidar, drone-based lidar technology, it can almost be a saturation of data through that point cloud. And so what we want to do is really help you show off examples and help you understand how you're going from this highly accurate point cloud with millions of data points and how you're using that to extract out the unique geometric features that are available to you that you and your colleagues really care about. So, we just want to understand there is this distinction between vectorized data and the point cloud classification. And that is kind of key to appreciating how your deliverables are structured and used. So point cloud classification categorizes individual points collected by the LiDAR sensor based upon the type of surface they're going to reflect off of, such as the ground, vegetation, or a man-made structure. So these point clouds are great. They provide dense 3D data, but the sheer volume of that information can sometimes feel overwhelming when you're looking to extract actionable insights. And this is where vectorized data comes in. So by converting a LiDAR point cloud into structured representations of points, lines, and polygons, that's where you're going to be able to simplify your data set into features that are easier to interpret and work with. In short, Planimetrics allow you and your customers to go from point cloud creation to feature extraction. And accurate vectorization enhances usability by streamlining workflows in GIS and CAD environments. And so without this vectorized data, working with raw point clouds, it's going to be cumbersome and require additional processing before that data can be integrated into design and planning software. And this process can reduce the risk of misinterpretation as well. And also well-structured data set removes unnecessary complexities. So ROCK's Planimetrics will be, the deliverables are built using standardized classification system, ensuring that each data set is structured, detailed, and ready to use. The classification process assigns clear labels to features within the dataset, making it easy to distinguish between different types of surfaces and structures. So the industries that rely on planimetric data are numerous, but some of the most common applications can be found in urban planning, construction, transportation, utilities, and environmental conservation. Roadways, driveways, and parking lots are categorized based on material and function. Sidewalks, curbs, and pavement markings are precisely classified to help engineers and planners understand pedestrian flow and roadway design. Your buildings are carefully outlined to capture accurate footprints, while utility features such as light poles, fire hydrants, and traffic signs are mapped to assist with asset management. Drainage features, including culverts and gutters, are detailed to support flood prevention and infrastructure maintenance. And a data set also includes natural features such as trees, tree lines, shrubs, as well as miscellaneous structures such as fences, bridges, and handrails, ensuring that every critical element of a site is documented with precision. One unique application that ROCK's been involved in is mapping beaver dam locations for conservation and water resource efforts. This is a subject near and dear to my heart. I love it. So this shows just how versatile, valuable planimetric line work can be. Planimetric line work is more than just an outline of physical features. It's a structured approach to creating intelligent data sets that drive better decision-making. And by leveraging the power of LiDAR-derived point clouds and refining them into high-quality vectorized data sets, ROCK Robotic is making it easier than ever to access the information needed for effective project execution. Now we will look at how planimetric mapping is being used in real-world projects captured by ROCK experts and processed by ROCK Pro services to enhance that decision-making, improve efficiency, and support a wide range of deliverables. So now we are going to look at some data sets. We have 3 of them. So in our exploration of planimetric line work, it's essential to understand the methodologies behind data acquisition, particularly when comparing orthophoto-based planimetrics to those derived from LiDAR technology. Both methods offer unique advantages and come with their own set of limitations, influencing the accuracy and applicability of the resulting data sets. So in practice, the choice between orthophoto-based and LiDAR-derived planimetrics often depend upon the specific needs of a project. Orthophotos can provide a rich visual context, making them ideal for applications where imagery interpretation is crucial, such as urban planning. All right, so now we're going to start by showing our data The first data set we have is going to be derived from an orthophoto at Van Bibber Creek here in Colorado. For those of you who came to some of our previous live streams where we got into the R3V2 data set, you may recognize this one. So as I said, this data was collected by the ROCK R3V2 sensor with the attached 26 megapixel camera. And you can see in this overview, looking down, we have the high resolution orthophoto for the site that covers not just the vegetated area, the creek bed, but also the surrounding sports field, where we do have some line work as it associates with looks like soccer fields down there. So that orthophoto is going to consist of high resolution images stitched together. This was corrected for distortions, resulting in a true top-down view where the objects are all in the correct planimetric location. Now, the line work that you're seeing is, now, for what it's worth too, any orthophoto that you can import into ROCK Cloud, whether it's derived from the ROCK Photogrammetry edition or using another software package, we can use that in ROCK Pro Services for planimetric work. So you do not need to specifically fly the ROCK lidar unit. You could be using photos collected with a DJI M3E drone system, and the orthophoto derived from that can be used to get your planimetrics. The line work that you're seeing will accurately represent 2 dimensions of the features present. But in some cases, so yeah, you can see we've got 2 dimensions, the coverage of the vegetation, the pedestrian path, the irrigation ditch that you're seeing. But some of those features present won't come off, like the details such as the steepness of the creek banks. Now we're kind of, you can't really see it through here, but this is a pretty well-incised creek along that pedestrian path. So that's not going to be able to be derived just from an orthophoto as the input. So in this case, we've got some really good planimetric line work, the parking lot, we've got the sports fields, we've got your pedestrian path, we've got the kind of the irrigation ditch, the general, all of our vegetation outline and understanding of where the creek is. But just from an orthophoto, there might be some limitations of those features you want to be able to see on site. So we do, there is more that we can do. Also, we're not just limited to data collected from a drone survey to generate planimetrics. The next data set we're going to look at is going to be planimetrics derived from a SLAM data set. So for those of you who were at Slamboree last month, hopefully this data set is familiar. It is our Joyce Street underpass data set. And so in this case, we employed the most appropriate data acquisition method for the project objectives to the area being mapped. So what we know is that, in an area like this, the planimetrics would have a limitation on coverage if we're only using traditional drone-based survey methods. And so in this case, we use the SLAM approach to survey both the pedestrian path, but also this Joyce Street underpass. So, in this case, getting the full planimetrics of the coverage and the extent of the pedestrian path through the underpass is not going to be possible with traditional drone-based methods. So as you see, if we zoom down into that actual underpass, we can see our planimetrics of the coverage of the pedestrian path going into an area where traditional drone-based methodology would not apply. And now, as we also change our view and we're able to reduce that opacity, we can also see the planimetrics being derived from the underpass of the road. So, excuse me, not just the underpass, the underside of the underpass. So this is where traditional drone surveying would not get data. In this case, we've got our SLAM data set that we collected for the Joyce Street underpass. And now as we look up we can see those support beams and the planimetrics derived from our SLAM data set. So just take a minute to let that sink into. We talked about how going from traditional survey methods to drone-based survey methods was a game changer. We know one of the limitations is we can't see through things into an underpass. And now with ROCK's versatile approach with our lidar units and the SLAM docks that we offer, you can now get planimetrics derived in this underpass on those support beams from a SLAM data set that we were able to get aligned to survey grade accuracy. So just thinking about that and letting that sink in is really impressive. So that's something we definitely want to highlight here, is that you're just not limited to traditional drone-based, it's so odd to say, traditional drone-based survey planimetrics. We're also getting in there with planimetrics derived from SLAM that was walked in a GNSS denied environment. And also we're able to bring that into the surrounding area, get that vegetation. This is something, as Davey mentioned, we can see there's a diversity of vegetation in this site. If we are able to, in the future, be able to get in there and be able to get chest height diameter, really understand the different types of vegetation that's present, that's going to be a game changer. Really happy with the planimetrics that we were able to derive from this SLAM-based survey, more than anything just because it's something that I had never seen before. And now that we have discussed and shown a fully ortho-derived set of planimetrics and a fully SLAM-derived set of ortho planimetrics, we're going to move back to that Publix grocery store that Davey, we discussed with Davey. And Davey provided a lot of details in here. I think I'm not going to try and speak for him just because he's an expert, and frankly, he did a much better job than I did. But I think what we also want to get into is, Davey talked about how from the planimetrics data, you're able to get you're able to extract and get out all that point striping. And I don't want to diminish the fact that that is a really time-intensive process to derive those features. And what Davey said is, I misunderstood this. He said, yeah, even though we're able to really cut down on our survey time versus traditional methods, we're still having to spend a lot of time on site to get check shots, to do some of the more traditional, make sure we're still getting some traditional survey methods. And so, not to speak for Davey or anyone else, but as a person who's managing this survey, you likely have a lot better things to do with your time than to extract all of the parking stripes or try and get all of the center lanes or all the vegetation coverage, or even in the case where you have a parking stripe that's got to be extracted underneath vegetation. If we can show a feature like that. And that's really where ROCK Pro Services comes in. Again, you are you're managing the survey. You have so much other stuff to be focused on than pulling out parking stripes. ROCK Pro Services is happy to take on that workload for you and work in collaboration with you and your team to make sure that all of those features get extracted, they are meeting your expectations, and they're meeting your project deadline. And so all you would need to do after you've uploaded your project to ROCK Cloud is submit a request to our Pro Services team, or use acreage that you've already purchased and just say, hey, here's the data set. Here's all the additional information. This may be the plan. These are the features that I need extracted. You pass it on to the ROCK Pro Services and say, go forth and conquer. We'll do that for you while you focus on other work that really makes you money, whether it's another survey you have going on, other projects, so on and so forth. So just a reminder that, another way that you can increase your project efficiency is to incorporate ROCK Pro Services into that workflow, allowing these features to be extracted by someone else. And so with that, we're kind of moving on into our final 10 minutes. I really would like to start working on wrapping things up. I heard there was a really great comment. Let me just see if I can bring it up. Okay. So let's see. Have you ever used any systems to track progress? Such as okay, great. Thank you for that. I'll read it out just because it's the first time I'm seeing it. Have you ever used any of your systems to track progress, such as identifying where underground utilities were placed prior to being covered up or in a wall MEP pipe routing? I would assume that you would then be able to overlay them if an owner wanted to add additional utilities in the future. Then if you used your systems to check what was provided in contract drawings, such as civil drawings that were provided to the contractor. Okay, so there's a lot going on in there. I'm going to try and break it down. Harrison, you may need to jump in if needed, but going back to the first, tracking progress. So absolutely, yes, the system can be used to track progress. And my apologies, just because that question is mildly vague. And a lot goes into tracking progress. So tracking progress in the sense of seeing how the site is changing over time, absolutely, that can be done. You would just fly it on a regular occurrence. If you're also looking to track progress in the way of stockpile quantities, we have tools that allow you to calculate those volumes, and you can see that. So now moving in, as far as if you're able to bring in what had been provided previously, so you do have the ability where you can upload existing project data and bring that in for comparison. So yes, that's totally possible. Now, the ability to identify underground utilities being placed prior to being covered up, that's something I'm not totally sure about. Just because if the utilities are underground, obviously in the lidar survey, we're not going to be able to see them. But again, my thoughts would be, as long as you're able, if you do have some sort of information as far as what the previously surveyed location and kind of path for those underground utilities were, if you have them in the correct file format, and it's spatially referenced in the same CRS, then yes, we definitely could bring it in and use that for comparison. So Logan, hopefully that helped to answer your question. If not, reach out after this and we can kind of dive into that in more details if you'd like. If we have any other questions, we're coming up on 5 minutes left. Again, I know with basketball going on, it's tough to stay in. So how would you connect together the SLAM data and the drone LiDAR data? Thank you, Alex, for that question. So the main thing that you would want to do if you're trying to merge together SLAM data and drone data in the same area is you're going to want to make sure that you have, really, I would say two things. The first is an overlap in areas where you've collected that LiDAR data. So in this case, you can see if we zoom out to the Joyce underpass, full coverage of just the underpass, we didn't need to get as much of an extent before and after the underpass through the pedestrian path. And part of that is if we did need to merge it with an airborne data set, we have data that's gone beyond where the drone wouldn't be able to collect LiDAR data. So that would be my recommendation, is first make sure that you've got good overlap between your SLAM data capture area and where you're able to capture data with your drone survey, and then also overlapping GCPs for both the SLAM and the airborne data. So in this case, we set out 6 GCPs for the SLAM data set. I would say my approach would be keep those GCPs out in the exact same location. And then after you've done your SLAM survey, make sure that those are captured in the drone survey. So then this way, what we're doing is hopefully the end result is 2 LiDAR data sets, one SLAM, one airborne. They are both going to be aligned in the same CRS, and then we can merge them. And as long as best practices have been followed, then they should merge together pretty well. If we have to, we can show the 56th Street underpass survey. I'm sure our people who've been coming to these live streams for a while might get tired of seeing that, but that's our main example of where we were able to merge SLAM lidar data and airborne lidar data and get it to survey grade accuracy for both and merge them together seamlessly. So yeah, this may just take a moment to load up, but you can see this is so it's going through an underpass. We had our SLAM data through the underpass, but with good enough collection into areas that we had our airborne data, so that once we were able to, and we used the same GCPs for those surveys. So once they were both aligned to the GCPs, they merged up really quickly. All right. For civil engineers and surveyors, what level of accuracy do you expect from an aerial lidar map mission? So what I would say, and sometimes people hate me when I say this, it depends. Because the final accuracy that you can expect is going to depend upon your flight parameters. So what we always like to tell people is kind of like, what is your goal? Now, if your goal is survey grade accuracy, which is going to be about 3 centimeters or less, or 1/10 of a foot or less, that is completely achievable with drone-based lidar surveys as well as SLAM-based lidar surveys, as long as you're following best practices and recommendations. So you want to make sure that you're flying at a height. We recommend 45 meters or less if you want that survey grade accuracy. You want to be collecting at the right speed. 4 to 5 meters per second is probably the maximum. And then making sure you get the correct overlap, making sure you have appropriate GCP distribution. And also something I will say too is when you're aligning to GCPs, just remember, it all comes down to accuracy in, accuracy out. So if you go and survey in a GCP and you've got poor satellite connections, or you just average over 5 seconds, that GCP may not be within 1/10 of a foot or 3 centimeters. So that could really throw off your final accuracy. So making sure you're taking the time to ensure that the GCPs that you're incorporating meet your accuracy specification. So long story short, you can definitely, from an airborne drone survey and from a SLAM lidar survey, you can expect survey grade accuracy. It's just a function of making sure you're using the correct parameters. And again, Davy just mentioned there, for 90% of his data, he's getting it within 1/10 of a foot. I don't know for that other 10% what it is, that it's outside of 1/10 of a foot, or where it's located, what could be the cause. But it's totally reasonable to get survey grade accuracy. It's just a matter of taking the time to plan out your survey parameters, understand the area that you're surveying, and also make sure that you're taking into account your project goals. All right, so with that, we're pretty much at time. And again, I really want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us for these live streams. I hope that you're finding them as helpful in incorporating into your work, and get a better understanding of what ROCK has to offer you, not just in the form of hardware, but also software and our pro services. So we do look forward to supporting you in your future endeavors, using lidar surveying and all that within the ROCK ecosystem. Please stay tuned for notifications about upcoming live streams. I don't want to put things too far ahead, but as Harrison mentioned, we do have some new products coming out in the future, so we'll probably have a live stream going over that moving forward. Again, thank you very much. I hope everyone has a great rest of their day.
Thank you for joining us for today's event and being a part of this incredible journey. We here at ROCK Robotic hope you're feeling inspired and ready to take the next step. Feel free to reach out to our team for any and all questions. We're here to help you decide what's the best fit and right for you. Together, we will rock on.